Imagine a drug that could extend female fertility indefinitely.
Right, like completely eliminating the biological clock.
Exactly. No agonizing over whether prioritizing your career in your 20s and 30s means, sacrificing your chance to have a family.
It would completely change the fabric of society.
It really would. But now, imagine that the brilliant, uncompromising, and frankly terrifying scientist who actually discovered this biological miracle has gone completely rogue in the deadliest jungle on Earth.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she's taken millions of dollars of corporate funding, built a secret laboratory somewhere on a nameless, impenetrable tributary of the Amazon River, and she outright refuses to answer to anyone.
And the pharmaceutical giant funding her, this company called Vogel, is left completely in the dark. I mean, they are desperate.
They really are.
They need to know what they're paying for, but more importantly, they need to know if this impossible drug actually exists.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. I am so glad you're joining us today because we are embarking on a journey that is going to, completely upend how you think about medicine, corporate ambition, and the untamed wildness of the human body.
Today, we are immersing ourselves in the brilliant, harrowing world of Anne Patchett's acclaimed novel, State of Wonder.
And it really is a phenomenal piece of literature.
Oh, absolutely. The stack of sources we're working from today includes comprehensive excerpts from the novel itself, alongside some really fascinating critical analyses of its themes.
Right. And didn't it get shortlisted for a major award?
Yeah, it was shortlisted for the Wellcome Trust Book Prize. And critics have frequently compared Patchett's thematic depth here to Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness and even Margaret Atwood's explorations of biological dystopias.
Those are some heavy hitters. So the mission of this deep dive, what we're really unpacking for you today, is the absolute violent clash between corporate pharmaceutical interests and pure, unadulterated, raw science.
Because it really is a violent clash.
It is. We're going to explore the profound ethical dilemmas that arise when modern ambition collides with ancient, untouched biology. And we're taking you through a harrowing psychological journey into the heart of the Amazon.
And if we look at the overarching philosophy of this story, it is fundamentally an inquiry into our modern illusion of control.
The illusion of control, I like that phrasing.
Right, because we like to believe that just because we can synthesize a chemical in a sterile lab, we have somehow mastered the primal forces of nature. And this story takes that assumption and just completely shatters it.
It shatters it right from the beginning. Our story opens by setting up a stark, almost blinding contrast to that untamed jungle. We are dropped right into the freezing, sterile, highly controlled environment of Eden Prairie, Minnesota.
The complete opposite of the Amazon.
Exactly. It is the Vogel Pharmaceutical Campus. Picture 30 buildings, laboratories with pristine stations for 20 technicians, walls and walls of mice and monkeys in cages.
All operating under those bright fluorescent lights and climate-controlled air.
Yeah, it's an environment engineered to eliminate surprises. And into this ultimate fortress of corporate predictability arrives, of all things, a flimsy, bright blue aerogram.
Just a single sheet of tissue-thin airmail paper.
Right.
It is an artifact from another era entirely. And it's carrying news that is going to completely derail the lives of everyone it touches.
So the letter is from our rogue scientist, Dr. Annick Swenson. She is writing to Mr. Fox, who is the CEO of Vogel.
And Mr. Fox had recently sent one of his researchers, a mild-mannered doctor named Anders Ekman, down to the Amazon.
Right, and he sent him simply to check on Dr. Swenson's progress. He was supposed to be a friendly ambassador, just touching base.
Nothing intense.
Exactly. And Dr. Swenson's letter casually announces that Dr. Ekman is dead.
The tone of this letter is just a masterclass in bureaucratic detachment.
Oh, it's so cold.
She spends the entire first half of the page discussing the torrential rain in the Amazon. I mean, she complains about the weather, noting how it makes her work more time-consuming.
Yeah, it's just a minor inconvenience.
Yes. And then buried in the text, she writes, "But for now, this business is not our primary concern. I write with unfortunate news of Dr. Ekman, who died of a fever 2 nights ago."
It is absolutely chilling. She refers to the death of a human being and the logistics of burying him in the jungle mud as a setback.
A setback?
Yeah. She assures Mr. Fox that despite this minor inconvenience of an employee dying, she and her team persevere.
It just highlights her complete disconnect from normal human empathy. To her, the research is the only thing that matters.
Everything else is secondary.
Right. Human life, weather, corporate oversight, they're all just variables in her experiment.
Which forces Mr. Fox to become the bearer of the worst news imaginable. He goes to the lab of Marina Singh.
Our protagonist.
Yes, Marina is a pharmacologist who shared a lab with Anders for 7 years. They were incredibly close. And Anders wasn't, an Indiana Jones type.
Not at all.
He was a guy who ate egg salad sandwiches in the cafeteria and loved birdwatching in the boundary waters of Minnesota. And now, Mr. Fox and Marina have to drive through a blinding Minnesota snowstorm to deliver this news to Anders' wife, Karen.
Patchett's use of the physical environment here is incredibly intentional. Outside, the snow is falling in these heavy, wet clumps, burying the new spring grass, freezing the crocuses solid.
Just a brutal freeze.
Exactly. The landscape itself is undergoing a sudden, violent freezing, mirroring the emotional shock that is about to hit the Ekman household.
We walk into that house with them, and the visceral details just grab you. Karen Ekman opens the door, wrestling with this enormous golden retriever named Pickles, who is pulling on a choke chain, just barking with joy at having guests.
It's so painfully normal.
Right. The house is neat. There's a jungle gym in the backyard gathering snow. It is the absolute picture of safe, suburban domesticity. But Karen immediately senses something is wrong.
Of course she does.
She looks at Mr. Fox and Marina standing there in the middle of the day, and she starts to panic. She insists that Anders can't be dead because, as she says, I would feel it, wouldn't I?
It's such a devastating moment. And as Karen collapses to the floor, literally wrapping herself around the dog and screaming, Marina has this profound realization about the lack of infrastructure for grief.
Yes, I was struck so forcefully by this. Marina realizes that if your house catches on fire, we have built a massive infrastructure to handle it.
Right, you dial 911.
Exactly, you call 911 and trained professionals arrive with sirens, hoses, and an entire system designed to mitigate the physical catastrophe.
But for emotional destruction.
Nothing. For the sudden, catastrophic emotional destruction of a family. When you walk into a kitchen and tell a mother of 3 young boys that her husband is buried in a muddy grave in the Amazon, there is no emergency number.
No protocol.
None. Marina is frantically looking around the kitchen for a Rolodex, a babysitter list, anything. She realizes they walked into this home completely blind, with no clergy, no grief counselors, no sedatives.
It perfectly exposes the hubris of the corporate mindset. Vogel thought they could manage the Amazon like a balance sheet. And when the reality of the jungle spilled into a suburban kitchen in Minnesota, they were entirely unequipped to handle the human cost.
But wait, I have to push back on this a little. Is Vogel actually the villain here?
You don't think so?
Well, look at it from Mr. Fox's perspective. He has a fiduciary duty. His company has poured millions of dollars into Dr. Swenson's research.
True.
If you fund a project for years and the lead scientist completely ghosts you, don't you have a right, an obligation even, to send someone to check on that investment? Was it really criminal negligence to send Anders, or just a tragic accident?
It's a fair question, but I think the negligence lies in how they approached it. It was profound corporate entitlement. Mr. Fox viewed the jungle through the lens of a boardroom. He explicitly states at one point, there is nothing inherently dangerous about the Amazon. It's a matter of precautions and good sense.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. He fundamentally failed to respect the primal reality of the environment. Sending a mild-mannered pharmacologist whose idea of danger is a bad cholesterol report into the deep Amazon without a guide, without proper security.
It assumes the Amazon will play by corporate rules.
Exactly. It assumes the Amazon will adhere to corporate logic. And the Amazon does not negotiate, it just swallows you.
And it swallowed Anders. And now, Mr. Fox, in his infinite corporate wisdom, decides that the only logical next step is to send Marina Singh down there to find out what happened to Anders.
And more importantly for him, to find out what is happening with this drug.
Right. Which brings us to the actual science at the center of this mystery. What is this biological holy grail that Vogel is chasing?
It all centers on a secluded indigenous group called the Lush tribe. Before he left, Anders had actually dropped a massive bound report on Marina's desk, authored by Dr. Swenson.
Okay.
And the report detailed an impossible biological phenomenon. The women of the Lush tribe simply do not stop bearing children.
Let's really dig into the science here, because this is where the story elevates from a thriller into a profound biological thought experiment. Anders explains to Marina that these women are having children into their 50s, 60s, and beyond.
Yes.
Their eggs aren't aging.
Right. To understand why this is so revolutionary, we have to look at real-world reproductive endocrinology.
Okay, lay it on me.
In human biology, a female is born with all the ovarian follicles she will ever have, roughly 1 to 2 million.
Right.
By puberty, that number has naturally dropped to around 300,000 to 400,000 through a process of cellular death called atresia.
The Tricia, okay.
And from there, the reserve constantly depletes. The quality of the eggs also degrades over time due to cellular senescence, making conception much harder and increasing the risk of chromosomal abnormalities as a woman ages.
So it's a strictly governed biological clock.
Absolutely.
But what Dr. Swenson has found in the Lakashi is a mechanism that completely halts that atresia and senescence.
It stops it entirely.
The rest of their bodies age normally. They suffer from poor diet, arthritis, lack of medical care, but their reproductive systems stay perfectly preserved. As Anders phrased it, ovum in perpetuity, menstruation everlasting.
Exactly. And the implications of this, both scientifically and financially, are staggering. Evolutionarily speaking, this goes against everything we understand about human biology.
How so?
Have you ever heard of the grandmother hypothesis?
I have, but let's break it down for the listener because it perfectly frames why Dr. Swenson's discovery is so disruptive.
Sure. So the grandmother hypothesis attempts to explain an evolutionary puzzle. Why do human females experience menopause at all?
Right, because most animals just reproduce until they die.
Exactly. Most animals reproduce until the very end. But human infants are incredibly resource-intensive. They require years of constant care.
They really do.
If a 65-year-old woman were to have a child and then die shortly after, that infant would likely perish. So the hypothesis suggests that evolution selected for menopause so that older women would stop risking their lives in childbirth and instead redirect their energy and wisdom into helping raise their children's children.
Ensuring the survival of their shared genes.
Precisely.
So menopause isn't a glitch, it's an evolutionary survival strategy for the species.
Yes.
And Dr. Swenson has found a way to violently override a million-year-old biological safeguard. But of course, Vogel isn't thinking about evolutionary anthropology.
Well, for a second.
They are looking at the market cap.
To a pharmaceutical company, this drug represents absolute, unimaginable wealth. It is the end of IVF.
Wow.
Think about it. No more expensive fertility shots that fail, no more agonizing over freezing eggs, no more donor eggs or surrogates. Women could effectively put off reproductive decisions for decades.
The market for this drug wouldn't just be massive, it would be universal.
It is the pharmaceutical equivalent of finding El Dorado.
And Vogel has been pouring capital into a black hole to get it. They shipped a whole research station down to Brazil on a barge, industrial freezers, tin siding, heavy generator.
A massive logistical effort.
Right. Dr. Swenson met the barge in Manaus, guided it down the river, and then just vanished. For 26 months, Mr. Fox hasn't received a single piece of data.
He is flying totally blind.
So he taps Marina to go retrieve the prodigal scientist. But Marina's connection to this mission isn't just professional. This is where the psychological thriller really tightens its grip.
Because Marina has a very dark, deeply repressed history with Dr. Annex Swenson.
13 years ago, Marina wasn't a pharmacologist in Minnesota. She was a medical student at Johns Hopkins studying obstetrics and gynecology. And Dr. Swenson was her professor.
Though professor feels entirely inadequate.
It really does. Dr. Swenson is described in the text as a force of nature. A tiny, fierce woman who could hold a lecture hall of hundreds of exhausted medical students in a state of absolute terror and exaltation.
Marina remembers sitting in that lecture hall, taking notes frantically, just terrified to miss a single syllable.
She was that intimidating.
Oh, completely. Dr. Swenson possessed an intellect and a relentless, almost predatory energy that demanded absolute perfection from her students. She was a charismatic, terrifying mentor who did not tolerate weakness.
But Marina didn't stay in obstetrics. We learned that there was a devastating incident under Dr. Swenson's watch.
A tragic accident.
Yes, an accident in the delivery room that was so traumatic it led to a massive hospital inquiry. It broke up Marina's marriage, and it caused her to completely abandon her career.
She just walked away.
She fled the high-stakes world of surgery for the quiet, predictable world of statin drugs and cholesterol research in Minnesota. She has spent 13 years hiding from the memory of Dr. Swenson.
And now, Mr. Fox, a man who Marina is actually secretly in love with, and who's the CEO of her company, is asking her to go into the deadliest jungle on Earth to hunt down the very monster under her bed.
It's an insane ask. If you are Marina in this situation, you have a paid-off house, a quiet life, you survived your past trauma, the logical thing to do is quit your job on the spot.
Absolutely.
Why on earth would you agree to go to the Amazon?
Guilt. Marina carries a massive lumbering guilt over that past accident, and now she feels uniquely responsible for Anders.
That makes sense.
Before she leaves, Karen Ekman specifically begs Marina to go. Karen says, "I know how much I'm asking. I know that I'm using all of it against you and how unfair it is, and I still want you to go."
That is so heavy.
It is. Marina's journey to the Amazon is not a corporate retreat. It is a classic mythological descent into the underworld. She has to confront the trauma of her past, find out what happened to her friend, and complete his mission.
And what a descent it is. Marina leaves the freezing, predictable corporate grid of Minnesota, hoping for answers. But the moment she steps off the plane in Manaus, Brazil, she realizes the jungle doesn't do predictable.
Not at all.
She is immediately stripped of her comforts. Her luggage is lost at the airport. She is left sweating in the heavy winter clothes she wore on the plane.
Miserable.
Totally. She checks into a bleak, sweltering hotel and is just stuck in a state of purgatory, waiting to find the people who can lead her to Dr. Swenson.
And those people are the gatekeepers, Barbara and Jackie Bovender.
Let's talk about the Bovenders because they are fascinating. Marina finally tracks them down in Rodrigo's store.
This oppressive, sweltering shop.
Yes, with dead bugs rattling inside the fluorescent light tubes where sides of beef are tilting precariously toward rot in the heavy air.
Gross.
And the Bovenders are the exact opposite of what you'd expect to find guarding a fierce, misanthropic scientist.
They really are.
They are young, impossibly tan, long-limbed bohemians. Barbara is in a red sundress with a gold chain around her ankle. Jackie is a shaggy-haired surfer type. And they are living rent-free in Dr. Swenson's Vogel-funded apartment.
But they serve a brilliant, highly strategic purpose for Dr. Swenson.
What's their game?
Their entire job is to be pleasant, vapid, and completely unhelpful to anyone trying to find the camp.
Oh, I see.
Whether it's the press, rival drug companies, or Vogel executives like Anders and Marina, the Bovenders simply smile, offer a glass of mango juice, and swear they have absolutely no idea where Dr. Swenson is or when she might return.
It's a genius tactic. To understand why it works, think about the terms and conditions page of a website.
Well, that's a great analogy.
Right. Why are those pages 50 pages long and written in dense legalese? Because they are weaponizing cognitive load.
Exactly.
They are beautifully designed to be completely unnavigable, to wear down your willpower with sheer volume and friction until you just click agree to make it go away. The Bovenders are human terms and conditions.
They weaponize pleasant incompetence.
Exactly. Anders spent a month hanging around their apartment trying to get answers, and they just slowly bled his time away with small talk and evasion until he was exhausted.
Dr. Swenson doesn't want competent, aggressive security guards who might start a confrontation. A confrontation creates a paper trail. It creates an event.
She wants a smokescreen.
Exactly. The Bovenders require no emotional investment from her, and they excel at wasting other people's time, keeping her completely isolated in her work.
But that isolation is violently pierced during a truly surreal encounter. Marina and the Bovenders go to the Teatro Amazonas, the famous opera house in Manaus.
And the architecture of that building alone tells a story. It was built during the rubber boom, a massive pink and blue tiled dome that looks like a European fever dream dropped right onto the edge of the jungle.
It's so out of place.
It represents civilization's desperate, thin attempt to hold back the encroaching vines.
And they are there to see Gluck's Orfeo Eurydice, which fittingly is a myth about a hero traveling down into the underworld to retrieve the dead.
Very fitting.
Marina is sitting in the dark of a third-tier box, acutely aware of how absurd she looks, sweating in Barbara's borrowed clothes. And then the terror strikes.
The tap.
Yes. A hand reaches between Marina and Barbara in the dark. A voice simply says, "Quiet."
It is Dr. Swenson. She has slipped back from the jungle completely unannounced, and she is sitting right behind them.
The psychological regression Marina experiences in this moment is palpable. All those years of building a successful career, all that time healing in Minnesota, and a simple tap on the shoulder reduces this highly educated pharmacologist back to a terrified medical student expecting to be grilled on a diagnosis.
But Dr. Swenson doesn't yell. She dismisses the opera performance as mediocre, and she introduces Marina to a new, crucial element of the story. A young boy named Easter.
Easter is an indigenous boy, maybe 8 years old. He is completely deaf. He navigates the chaotic city streets of Manaus alone. He steers the boats on the river, and he serves as Dr. Swenson's ward.
He is a child caught between the ancient world of the tribes and the modern world of the scientists.
And Easter is the key that finally unlocks the gates of purgatory. With Easter steering the boat, Marina and Dr. Swenson leave the city and journey up the Rio Negro.
The transition from the city to the jungle is a masterclass in sensory shift. As they travel further from civilization, the true scale and indifference of the Amazon reveal themselves.
It is an absolute sensory overload. Patchett describes the water of the Rio Negro as the color of milky tea, so opaque you can't see a quarter of an inch below the surface.
And the heat.
The heat doesn't just warm you, it tacks you into place. And the darkness at night is profound. A total absence of light until you see the stars scattered across the sky like spilled milk. They finally arrive at the hidden camp, guided by Lakashi women standing on the muddy shore, holding burning torches, singing out in the dark.
And the research camp itself is an anomaly. It operates under its own bizarre laws of physics and time. It is a community in a state of suspended animation.
We meet the supporting cast of researchers here. Dr. Booty, Thomas and Como, the Saturns.
Right.
These are highly educated doctors from all over the world who live in these rudimentary, sweltering huts, working endlessly. And what I found fascinating is how they spend their downtime. Yes, they read Charles Dickens novels. But because of the environment, they have to keep the books wrapped in plastic tarps with a cinnamon stick inside to ward off the ants.
It's so specific.
Dr. Swenson firmly believes that the ants will be the standard bearers for the end of civilization. They will consume everything.
It perfectly captures the fragility of their outpost. They are entirely disconnected from the outside world, hyper-focused on solving one singular biological mystery.
And it is here that we finally uncover the mechanism of this miracle drug. How does this endless fertility actually work? It turns out it's not a simple plant extract you can just synthesize in a lab.
Right. It requires a highly specific, complex biochemical interaction found only in this one isolated ecosystem. The Lakashi women chew the bark of the marten tree.
Okay.
But the bark alone is inert. It must be combined with the excretions of the purple martinet moth, a specific moth that feeds exclusively on the leaves of that tree.
I found the best way to visualize this is to think of a two-part epoxy glue.
Oh, that's good.
If you've ever used it, you know you have two separate tubes. You can put the resin on your hands all day and it's basically harmless. But the moment you mix it with the hardener, the chemical catalyst, it triggers a reaction that locks everything into solid stone.
Exactly.
The marten tree bark is the resin. The moth's digestion process provides the catalyst. Only when the two mix in the human bloodstream does the chemical reaction occur that locks the ovarian cells, preventing senescence.
It's a brilliant biological mechanism. Marina actually tries it. She leans into the tree and bites the bark.
What does it taste like?
She describes the pulpy liquid, yielding a taste of fennel, rosemary, and a slightly peppered undertone.
Which is the moth stuff.
Yeah, which she quickly realizes is the insect excrement. It is a deeply primal act. She is stripping away all the sterile synthesis, the petri dishes and centrifuges of modern pharmacology, and literally drinking the raw, unfiltered chemistry of the jungle.
But the true shock of the camp isn't the tree or the moth or the taste of the bark. It is the massive, horrifying secret that Dr. Swenson has been hiding from everyone, including Vogel.
The twist.
The plot twist that made me drop the book.
Dr. Swenson, at 73 years old, is pregnant.
She has made herself the ultimate test subject. She has been taking the drug, she halted her own biological clock, and she is carrying a child, and it is an absolute nightmare.
It's awful.
This isn't a beautiful, glowing miracle of life on the cover of a magazine. She is in profound physical and psychological misery.
This goes right back to our discussion of evolutionary biology. She tells Marina, women past a certain age are simply not meant to carry children. It has made me firmly 73.
The physical reality of it is brutal. Think about what pregnancy does to a human body. Your blood volume increases by up to 50%.
A 73-year-old heart is now struggling to pump a massive excess of blood.
Exactly. Hormones like relaxin flood the system to soften the joints and ligaments for birth. But in a 73-year-old skeleton dealing with osteoporosis, it is sheer agony. The child is thrashing against her bladder, leaching calcium from her fragile bones.
This is the profound irony of her discovery. Dr. Swenson found the fountain of youth for the reproductive system, but she realized far too late that the rest of the human vehicle is not designed to support it.
Right.
The engine is running perfectly, but the chassis is collapsing under the strain.
So I have to ask you, how do we judge Dr. Swenson here? Is she a heroic scientific pioneer, the ultimate researcher, willing to sacrifice her own body to definitively prove her life's work? Or is she a mad scientist who has completely lost her ethical compass, blinded by her own God complex?
I think she is the ultimate cautionary tale of scientific hubris. She proves the old adage that just because we can do something biologically doesn't mean we should.
Yeah, that makes sense.
She actually admits to Marina that she has no intention of unleashing this drug on the world. She says she trusts women to stop trying to have children at a sensible age, knowing the physical toll it takes.
So she knows the danger.
Yes, she wants to complete the research for the sake of pure knowledge, but she recognizes that the commercial application of her discovery is monstrous.
And this clash of ethics isn't just confined to her pregnancy. We see it play out vividly in how the scientists interact with the indigenous people. Dr. Swenson operates under a strict, almost brutal anthropological prime directive of non-interference.
Yes, she recounts a chilling story about her own mentor, Dr. Rapp, who allowed a local woman to bleed to death rather than intervene with modern medicine.
That's horrifying.
His argument was that you must respect the indigenous order. You cannot unbend the river. Introducing Western medical intervention fundamentally alters the ecosystem and the culture of the tribe.
But Marina, carrying her Johns Hopkins medical training and her Minnesota sensibilities, completely rejects this.
She can't just watch.
No. When a Lakashi woman is dying in agonizing, obstructed childbirth, Marina doesn't stand back and observe the natural order. She grabs a bottle of ketamine from the research supplies, climbs a ladder into a sweltering hut, and performs an emergency C-section on the dirt floor, saving both the mother and the child.
It is a violent, bloody collision of Western medical ethics and Amazonian reality.
And the consequences are immediate. The Lakashi revere her for it. They see her as a savior, someone who can literally pull life from the jaws of death.
But Dr. Swenson is furious, knowing that Marina has permanently altered the dynamic between the researchers and the tribe.
Which sets the stage for the final, devastating act of our deep dive. Marina came to the jungle to find out how Anders Ekman died. But while sleeping in the bed that used to belong to Anders, she finds a metal lockbox hidden underneath.
And it belongs to Easter, the deaf boy.
And inside this box, nestled among feathers and fossils, Marina finds the impossible. She finds Anders' passport, his driver's license, and a blue aerogram written in Anders' handwriting.
The letter.
Yes, the letter offers a cash reward to anyone who will help Easter reach Karen Ekman in Minnesota.
Anders was trying to save this deaf boy, to get him out of the jungle and bring him to America to be raised with his own sons.
But the real revelation hits Marina like a physical blow. Dr. Swenson told Mr. Fox she buried Anders. But Dr. Swenson didn't bury him.
No.
Anders Ekman is not dead.
He is alive,
Wow.
but he is far from safe. He is living with the Humoka, a brutal, isolated, incredibly dangerous tribe further down the river.
They are bad news.
The Humoka are the one thing in the jungle that Dr. Swenson is genuinely terrified of.
Marina pieces it together. Anders realized he couldn't just leave with Easter. He traded himself, he gave his possessions to the boy, and he somehow ended up a captive of the Humoka.
And Marina knows with absolute certainty that she cannot go back to Eden Prairie without him.
She cannot face Karen Ekman having left Anders behind.
So she forces Dr. Swenson's hand. They organize an expedition, taking the boat down the river deep into Humoka territory.
The tension in the scene is unbearable. They pull the boat up to the muddy shore. The Humoka men, painted and armed, wade out into the water. Marina brings a jar of peanut butter as a meager, almost absurd offering.
Butter.
Yeah, it's so surreal. And then she sees him, Anders. He's gaunt, hollow-cheeked, practically a ghost of the man who used to eat egg salad in the cafeteria, but he is alive.
But the gut-wrenching twist isn't the rescue itself. It's the cost of the rescue. The Humoka men look at the boat, and they aren't looking at the peanut butter or Marina or even Anders.
They are looking at Easter.
A man with a yellow painted forehead recognizes the boy. A woman on the shore drops the infant she is holding and wades frantically into the river, calling out with her arms stretched wide.
The devastating truth is revealed. Easter is not Lakashi.
He is Humoka. He was lost or taken years ago, and they want him back.
Easter shrinks back behind Marina, wrapping his arms around her waist as tight as a snake. He is terrified. He doesn't want to go with these people. He barely remembers.
That's heartbreaking.
It is. But Marina realizes the brutal geometry of the jungle. To get Anders back, to return a father to his 3 boys in Minnesota, she has to leave Easter behind. She has to trade a vulnerable, deaf child back to a violent, primitive tribe.
And she makes the trade. She brokers the deal, pulling Anders onto the boat as the Humoka take Easter. They speed away, leaving the boy behind on the shore.
I want to pose this tough moral question to you, the listener. If we strip away the romance of the adventure, what did Marina actually do here?
Was it a rescue or a betrayal?
Exactly. Was this a heroic rescue? She saved her coworker, a man with a family who loved him? Or was this a profound utilitarian betrayal? She sacrificed a child she had grown to love, a child Anders had desperately wanted to save. Can you justify trading one life for another?
It perfectly encapsulates the overarching theme of this deep dive. The Amazon forced Marina into an impossible choice where sterile corporate ethics simply do not apply.
Right.
There was no HR department to consult, no ethical review board. She learned Dr. Swenson's hardest, most brutal lesson.
You're
To survive the raw reality of nature, you have to leave parts of your humanity behind. You cannot save everyone.
And the universe wastes no time proving that the isolation of the jungle is over. Just as they return to the camp with Anders, who steps off a chartered boat onto the dock, Mr. Fox.
Of course is Mr. Fi.
He has arrived in his khaki pants, demanding to see the progress of his drug.
It is the ultimate proof that corporate capitalism will inevitably penetrate even the deepest, most hidden corners of the world. The secret is out.
Which leads to the emotional whiplash of their return to Minnesota. They fly back, and the transition is jarring. Suddenly, they are in the back of a Nigerian cab driver's taxi, rolling through the pristine, manicured suburbs of Eden Prairie.
The contrast is just crazy.
The air conditioning is humming, the smell of raspberries and cut summer grasses in the air.
Patchett writes this finale so cinematically, contrasting the civilized safety of the cul-de-sac with the absolute savagery of what they just endured.
Anders sees his boys playing in the front yard. He leaps out of the moving taxi, screaming their names. The boys drop their bikes. Karen Ekman flies out of the front door, practically suspended in the air as she leaps into her husband's arms.
It is a pure, unadulterated miracle of a reunion.
And Marina?
What does she do?
Marina stays in the cab. She quietly tells the driver to drive on. She observes the miracle she brokered from the shadows, knowing the terrible, heavy price that was paid in the jungle to make it happen.
She doesn't step out to claim the glory.
No, she just watches, and then she goes home to her quiet life, irrevocably changed.
It is a profound arc. From the snowy corporate park to the dark heart of the Amazon, through the discovery of a terrifying biological anomaly, to the morally ambiguous rescue of Anders Ekman.
As we wrap up this deep dive into the source material, I want you to consider how far you would go in the name of loyalty or duty. Would you walk into the dark for a coworker, for an old mentor who terrorized you?
And think about that drug.
Right. Is the pursuit of endless youth, of limitless fertility, really a blessing? Or is it a defiance of the natural order that will ultimately broke the vessel it inhabits?
It leaves us with a chilling concept to mull over. Now that Mr. Fox has arrived at the camp, Vogel has the data.
The secret is out.
The biological mechanism of the marten tree and the purple martinet moth is in the hands of a pharmaceutical giant.
And here is the final provocative thought I want to leave you with. When Vogel inevitably turns that tree bark and insect into a multi-billion-dollar, globally distributed industry, what will happen to the Lakashi tribe?
That's the real tragedy waiting to happen.
When the modern world descends on that tiny patch of untouched jungle to harvest the cure for aging ovaries, building roads, and processing plants, will the jungle and the indigenous people who have guarded its secrets for millennia survive the cure?
We started today talking about the illusion of control, the comforting boundaries of the sterile lab.
We did, and as Marina Singh learned, when you shatter that illusion, when you step into the muddy waters of the Amazon, the answers are never clean. They are bloody, they are complicated, and they always carry a cost. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the limits of science in your own lives. See you next time.